No, seriously, part one, who the fuck did I marry? I am trying to be a little bit less psycho on TikTok because obviously I had my little meltdown the other day and that was probably like enough for this week. But when I opened my phone today to a million texts from all my friends of this TikTok that Clinton Kane had posted saying, what did he say? He said like, when I've been over the relationship for 2 years and she just can't stop yapping about it, which first of all, hilarious. Like, no shit, I can't stop yapping, but the nerve. Now, obviously, we broke up 2 years ago, okay? And that was a very, very different time in my life. I was, first of all, unmedicated, okay? And that is a very, very important factor in this story because I get so many comments that are like, Brooke, what on earth were you going through? And I agree. I really don't know. That was a different girl. I was bamboozled. Now, I get a lot of comments about his appearance and the way he shakes, okay? And those are two things that I'm gonna leave off limits for my story time because I feel like that's low-hanging fruit and it's obvious it doesn't even need to be addressed. Believe it or not, that was not even really the problem. The fact of the matter is I ended up in a relationship with this man because I was a fan, honestly. I knew of him because of his music. I loved his song Chicken Tendies or whatever. Tana and I would literally blast it on a loop at our old house and like we were obsessed with it, okay? So randomly one day I get a DM from this artist. It's Clinton Kane. And I remember telling Tana like, oh my God, like how funny, he just messaged me. And he starts just like asking me questions, whatever. And he asks if I want to go to dinner. And I'm like, I'm looking at his profile and I don't know if I want to go to dinner, okay? But I'm replying anyway, and he asks, he's like, what about tomorrow? I'll fly you to Vegas. I go, what the fuck? I didn't know he lived in Vegas. So I say no, and that's the end of that. No, seriously, part one, part two, who the fuck did I marry? Like I said, he lived in Vegas, so I obviously was not gonna go to dinner with him because he's a stranger, okay? But he persisted, all right? Of course, of the next few months, he would slide up on all my stories, message me constantly. Some would call him obsessed, honestly, but what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna fly to meet a stranger, okay? But one day, I get a DM where he says, hey, I have a show tomorrow in LA, like, would you wanna come? And again, I loved his music, so I was like, absolutely, I will definitely come because it's like, that's so much less pressure. I don't wanna go to dinner with this man. Like I said, I saw his profile, but I wanna see the show. So I ask Bibi to come with me and we get ready to go, okay? Remember so specifically the outfit that I wore because again, this guy has been messaging me so much online that I'm like, I know he like loves me. So I wore the ugliest outfit you could find. Like Bibi knows, I said it to her. I was like, I just want like to look as unattractive like to him as possible because I just don't want that to be the vibes. All right. She and I go to dinner and we go to the show. It's amazing. Okay. He was amazing. I don't know what's happened since then, but he was slaying at the time. After the show, we go upstairs. I think he was at like El Rey Theater or something. And everybody's like mingling. A few of my friends were there. I remember Max and Cover were there. Markel was there. One of my best friends, Justin Horowitz, was there. Like I was like mingling with friends and he like came over to me and started talking to me, whatever. And we like hit it off. And I'm going to tell you guys something that you might not believe, but he looked really good. Honestly, he was way taller than I thought. And he had a really cool outfit on. And I was like, you know what? He's not as bad as I thought he was. Okay. So we end the night. I go home. Nothing happens. And he texts me after the show. And he's like, would you want to come back tomorrow? And I had an amazing time. I like loved the show. So I was like, you know what? I'll go back. Amari also loved his music. So I texted Amari and I was like, would you want to come? Would you want to come with me to see Clinton Kane tomorrow? And whatever. I bring Amari the next day, okay? Same show, we do the same thing after, and then Amari and I go back on his bus, okay? And honestly, we had such a good time. Like we're like cracking up on the bus, we're with a bunch of friends. Amari's having the best time, I'm having the best time. He's funny, he's cool, he's like charismatic. I'm like, you know what? Like maybe he's not that bad, okay? We all get off the bus and go to the club. We all get super drunk, and me and him end up like making out. We're like very much together at the club, and that was the start of something very horrible. Okay, part 3, who the fuck did I marry? All right, so after the club, he and I went alone to a little diner in LA called Mel's Diner. It's 24 hours. You can go after the club, get fries, shakes, whatever. And he and I order literally every single thing on the menu, and we sit there for like 4 hours and just talk, okay? And this is the point where he tells me about what had happened to him in the year prior, all right? This would have been, I guess, 2020, like during COVID, okay? He tells me his mom, his dad, and his brother all died in the same year, okay? Which is fucking horrible. Like, obviously just unimaginable. So I'm like blown away. I knew that his mom had died because he had openly talked about like how one of his songs was about her and stuff, but I had no idea about the rest of his family. So I was like, holy shit, first of all. And I feel like I completely changed my opinion about him because I'm like, at this point, I'm thinking he's just like this weirdo sliding into my DMs, and now he's very like human to me because I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe you could overcome something like that. Like, that's insane. This is very important to the story, okay? Because I need you guys to understand how I ended up in this scenario, all right? Then he starts telling me how he got into music. He's telling me how he was homeless and he would backpack around Europe, like literally sleep on benches and busk, like in parks, to make money, and he got discovered, whatever. And then obviously, I guess I'm in Love came out and he was really successful from that song. But I'm just looking at this guy like, I have never met anybody like you, because first of all, I could never be touring a year after like that kind of extreme tragedy, first of all. Second of all, you would never catch me dead sleeping on a bench on purpose. So I was like, this guy's really like special. Okay, part 4, who the fuck did I marry? Okay, so we had this whole night at this diner. We talked forever, and I got to know a lot about him, okay? He told me all about how he had grown up in Australia, in Perth, Australia. He talked about how he grew up like super wealthy in like an 8-bedroom house on the beach in Australia. His mom was a pastor. He said she was a pastor at Hillsong United, which is like one of the biggest churches, I guess, in Australia. I don't know. He studied medicine, which I loved because I was like technically pre-med when I was in college also. I didn't graduate, but it doesn't matter. So I was like, oh my God, we have that in common. Like, this is like a really well-rounded, like amazing guy, okay? And like I said, he doesn't live in LA. So the next night he calls me and he's like, listen, I have a date planned for us. I'm picking you up at 8, whatever. And he does, okay? We go on this date. It's like a beautiful restaurant, whatever. We have the best time. We talk forever. We go to the beach, yada, yada. I go home. And the next day, he calls me and he says, I am so sorry and I'm so afraid to tell you, but I just got on set for my music video and I tested positive for COVID. Obviously, I had just like had this whole extravagant date with him the night before. I would 100% have COVID. We were like making out on the beach the whole night, which is like traumatizing but true. Okay, so I'm like, this man gave me COVID. And he's like, there's nothing I can do. I'm so sorry, but like, obviously we both have it. So I'm quarantining at the one hotel if you want to come and stay with me. So I was like, I mean, like, fuck, like I have COVID now. I have 2 roommates. Like, guess I gotta go. I don't know. Again, unmedicated. I show up to the hotel, okay? And I move in with the man. Part 5, who the fuck did I marry? Okay, so I'm at the one hotel, one of the most beautiful hotels in all of Los Angeles, okay? It's like several $1,000s a night for like a nice room. So I'm living the life. We're ordering room service every night. We're just having so much fun. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I date this guy. Keep in mind, we are not separating, so I have no opportunity to view his online presence, all right? Because that is another really important factor to the story, because had I seen the shaking that was occurring, I might have thought differently, okay? But he's in person, he's really normal, he's charismatic, he's Australian, he's a beautiful musician, he's singing to me and playing guitar every night. I'm like, you know what? I'm falling for him, okay? I know, but You asked. As more time passes, we eventually move to like an Airbnb in Marina Del Rey because he wanted to be by the beach. And so we go over there. And this man is not allowing me to go home, okay? This was the first major red flag. Like if I had a morning where I was like, okay, like I want to go home and like get new clothes and shower and like just be a human and be alone for a second, he would immediately like shut down, like, why don't you want to be with me? Why would you want to go home? Can I come with you? Like, just very strange. And I did not like that. A normal person would have seen this as like a big, major, like, no in a relationship, okay? But I am not a normal person. So I was like, if he wants to be with me all the time, he is obsessed with me, of course. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I believed it was a good thing at the time, all right? And I had a bunch of people in my ear. I had like mutual friends, like Zach Sang was a really important one too, okay? We were all hanging out together all the time, and when Clinton like maybe wasn't around, I would have these people in my ear like, Brooke, if you do not date this man, you are so stupid. Like, first of all, he's gonna be huge. He's so talented. He's so special. He has like the most amazing story. Like, you have to date him, okay? And one thing about me is I'm easily influenced. So I start dating. Part 6, who the fuck did I marry? Okay, we are now in a committed relationship, all right? And one thing about Clinton is he loved to go on a trip, all right? He wanted to get me as far away from everybody else as possible. So this time it was Joshua Tree. He's like, let's go to Joshua Tree. Let's just spend the weekend. It'll be so relaxing, amazing, whatever, we can work. Great. On the way there, we get pulled over. In his car, he drove a Model X at the time. And when the cop asked for license and registration, he gave his license, his Australian license, and he gave the registration to the car, which was not his car. So I thought that was strange. And then the cop is like reciting his information back to him, and he says, you were born in 1999. And I am under the impression that my boyfriend is a year younger than me, okay? And this would make him like 4 years younger than me. I'm like, that's really strange. But we keep going, and I ask him about it, and he's like, oh, like, that's a fake ID. I got it mixed up. We got lucky. And I'm in my head like, that doesn't happen, but whatever. Also, who has a fake ID to appear younger? Anyway, we go to Joshua Tree, and we have this whole little trip, whatever. We're barbecuing and hot tubbing and having this whole little couples vacation, okay? And everything is going perfect until the nighttime, all right? And this is when we had our first major blowout fight, all right? This is a very important turning point because our entire relationship was blowout fights, okay? But what's important about them is that they were literally out of thin air, okay? So this one was because we're eating our dinner that we made, okay? And I am looking at my phone, okay? Keep in mind, I'm not at a family dinner. We are on a couples retreat where we have spent every single second together for the past 48 hours. Why would I not be allowed to look at my phone? This is when he proceeded to tell me it's a major trigger of his for someone to not pay 100% attention to him at dinner time because that's what his mom used to do to him, all right? And his mom was very neglectful. He had a horrible relationship with her, and it was really traumatic. Obviously, everything is unresolved since she has died, and so anything that reminds him of his mother is a no, okay? And he went insane. I tell you, I have never seen a man like just pout and throw like a literal tantrum this way. I was like, how do I undo? I cannot be in a relationship with this man. Part 7, you guys, he said she can't stop yapping. I'm like, I will show you yapping, okay? So we just had our first major blowout fight, all right? And this is when I first found out like how he behaves in an argument, which was like a child. Like literally you could not talk any sense into him. It was so irrational, and it was just like you could not get through to him. There was no like compromise. It was like you just had to apologize even though he was so unbelievably wrong every single time. Oh my God, it was infuriating. And the overwhelming common theme of all of our arguments was that I was worsening his trauma, and he can't believe that I'm so insensitive to everything that he has been through. I remind him so much of his mother, who was so horrible to him, and I should be way more sensitive to everything that he is going through. And of course, I'm like, I get that. You know what I mean? Like, the man lost 3 family members in 1 year. I'm like, he is going through a lot, so I have to give him like a little bit of grace. But it became a situation where I felt like I was like mothering this man, and like if I did anything wrong, or if I like literally split my attention for even 1 second, he went ballistic because he was like a little infant baby child. I want to be sensitive to his situation, but it was like way too much for me to handle, because I'm already, you guys know, I'm emotionally unstable, okay? And I have no business fixing whatever was like seriously very wrong with him. I would go out with my friends. Like, I remember one night I was at dinner with Tana, and he's blowing me up, like literally sending me novels about how he drank an entire 5th of vodka, he's gonna drive, I need to get to him right now, or he's gonna do crazy things. Like, it was just so manipulative, and I just like, I was not equipped. Part 7, you think? I'm honestly not sure. I'm just trying not to spare you any details. So I'm in my relationship with my little baby man child, and he still lives in Vegas, okay? So we are technically in a long distance relationship, but we never separate. So either I'm in Vegas staying with him, or he is living with me. Or we'd get like an Airbnb in Marina Del Rey, whatever, it doesn't matter. We are never separating. And at this time, his album was about to come out, okay? So like, he was doing the whole rollout. He was like really getting in the zone. And I was just constantly there for like all the work that he was doing. And this album was special because it was this first piece of work that he was putting out since everything had happened and since everyone had died, okay? And the whole album was about that, of course. And as a part of his little press tour, he went on the Zach Sang show, okay? If you are not familiar, Zach Sang is an interviewer. He does like huge celebrity interviews, and he gets really deep and talks about like life and music and everything. Zach is also one of his best friends. So Zach like knows his story very well, and he does the interview accordingly, okay? He's asking like all the questions about his mom, about the funerals, about his brother, about his dad, everything. And he's answering, obviously. And he's talking about how he had to attend the funerals during COVID, and he had to do it via Zoom because of like everything that was going on. And he is really just going in this interview in his Australian accent. And the interview comes out. I was staying with him at an Airbnb at the time, and I posted a TikTok with him in it, okay? And in my comments, I started getting girls going, uh-oh, like, not him. And I immediately was like, wait, what? And I have a girl tell me like, oh, by the way, he cheated on his ex-girlfriend with literally 15 girls. And before this, he had told me that his ex, who I Guess I'm in Love is about, by the way, one of the most beautiful songs ever. People use it as their wedding song. It's like, I mean, it's his biggest song. He told me that the girl that was about had cheated on him, okay? So this was news to me. And I asked him about it. I'm like, did you cheat on her? And like, it was the most nonchalant thing in the world. He was like, well, yeah. I'm like, excuse me? Part 8, I think. Part 9. I'm having so much fun. Okay. So we just found out that he cheated on his ex-girlfriend, who I Guess I'm in Love is about. Okay. Beautiful love song. You can't imagine that he could possibly do something bad to her, right? Wrong. He was cheating on her the whole time. All right. And what I realized when I really looked into it is I was one of the girls, because like I said, he has been messaging me constantly for the last year, like literally sliding up on every single story I post, trying to fly me out. When he tried to fly me out to dinner that time, they were actively in a relationship. So I'm sick because, first of all, I feel like I somehow had like a part in it, and I felt disgusting about that. And just the fact that like I could never have imagined that he was like capable of doing something like that because of how like romantic he was and like what a love bomber he was. I was like, I what on earth do you mean? but he's a master manipulator. So he's, you know, he's telling me like, I was so removed from that relationship long before we broke up and I should have just called it off and I would never do something like that again. And they were long distance, like she lived in New York and he lived in Vegas. So it was like, they really didn't spend a lot of time together. And like somehow the way that he described it to me made it seem like less bad. It was horrible, but I didn't let it go. And that was at the top of my mind. Okay. And again, we're staying together. So the next morning, I'm in bed with him when he is on a call with his manager. All right. And he is begging his manager, telling him, whatever it takes, I need you to have that interview deleted. And he's talking about the Zach Sang interview that I referenced earlier. Okay. And I am like, what's going on? I hadn't seen the interview yet, but Zach's one of our best friends. Like, I was like, what could possibly be in this interview that is so bad that he wants it off the internet? But you know, like Clinton's telling his manager, like, I don't care, like just get it down. So in bed next to him, I get on my little phone and I go to the interview and I start to read the comments. And in the comments, I see someone write, this is really strange. I don't know where this Australian accent came from. He is not Australian. He is from Brunei. I grew up with him. I went to school with him. And I saw his mom last week. Part 10, we have reason to believe that he is A, not from Australia, faking an Australian accent, and B, he faked the death of his family. Okay? And like I said, I was still mad about the ex thing, so I staged this whole fight and I get the fuck out of there, which was not easy to do, okay? I don't get to leave, remember? I go home and I get on my computer so fucking fast and I look up his mother, okay, which I've never done before. She has a very specific name, all right? And I looked her up on Facebook. She has 2 accounts, okay? And on neither of them has she posted since the date that she was supposed to have died. So in my head, I'm like, okay, it's possible she's dead, but it's also possible that she is not, which like, you guys. But here's the thing, okay? He had told me so many stories about his childhood and his life growing up and told me all about his mom and what she looked like. She was Norwegian and blonde, okay? He would tell me about what his house looked like and how they had nannies and maids. And he was so wealthy and his mom would leave for months at a time because she also had, like, she had all these, like, crazy businesses in addition to her being a pastor. Like, I don't even know how in my right mind I, like, did not see right through this, but he would tell me all these elaborate stories. And now I'm looking at her Facebook profile and his life was nothing of the sort, okay? I can see the house that he grew up in Brunei, by the way, not at all in Australia. Keep in mind, I live with this man and he has a fucking Australian accent. His mom is obviously Asian, as is he, which, like, why would you lie about that? It's such a strange thing to lie about. And just everything was fake. So while I can't immediately tell that she is alive, I can tell that he is a extreme pathological liar. Part 11, you guys, I now know that my boyfriend, who I've been with for several months, who I spend every single waking second with, has literally completely fabricated every single detail about himself. I know nothing about him. And as, like, lighthearted and, like, funny as I can make the story now, like, I cannot explain to you, like, what I felt in that moment. It was genuinely the worst feeling I've ever felt in my entire life, because it was like I've never been obviously lied to in that way, but like, I spend so much time with this person. He's my best friend. I'm in love with him. I am dating him. Like, he's the closest person in the world to me, and he made himself up. And just like my nature, it's impossible for me to get rid of somebody. So I knew, like, obviously what I know, I have to break up with him, and I didn't want to. So I was like, what the fuck do I do? I know that sounds so dumb coming out of my mouth now, but it was like, I knew that if I had the conversation, I had to break up with him. So I was like, I wasn't even sure that I wanted to have I almost wanted to just, like, pretend I didn't know. Again, I was unmedicated. But I did text him and I said, listen to me. I'm going to give you the opportunity right now to tell me if there's anything that you've lied to me about at all. And he racked his brain for all of 5 minutes before he told me I had lied about my age. I am 22 years old. All that, and the only thing he wanted to admit to was that he lied about his age. Part 12, get to the point. I confront him, obviously. I show up there the next day, and I'm like, listen to me. This is what I know. You need to explain yourself right fucking now. And when I tell you this man is so good at his job, you guys, because here's the thing. I'm here accusing a man of faking his mother's death, okay, with no hard evidence. I have evidence that he lied about, like, the conditions in which he grew up, but I'm not sure that she's alive. So I can't, like, with full confidence, like, come at him in that way. So I'm kind of hoping that he just, like, confesses, and he doesn't. He made me feel so fucking horrible for ever possibly accusing him of lying about something like that, because who would ever lie about something like that? And I felt so disgusting and so guilty, and I literally could not, I thought I was going crazy. And here's the thing. I grew up very poor, and obviously I had like drug addict parents and stuff, and like he knows that, and I've told him a lot about that. So it was like weird to me that he would lie about, like, pretend to have grown up super rich. But I also know that like some people are like ashamed of the way that they grew up and stuff. So it's like, how am I really, I don't know why I'm making excuses for him right now. Like, why the fuck are you lying about how you grew up? Literally, why? For who? But I admit my fault. I stayed with him, okay? I stayed with him, and I know I was wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. Looking back on it now, I'm like, are you literally kidding? But I stayed with the man. But I still had my doubts, okay? Now, all of a sudden, I'm watching him differently. Every single thing that he says, I just assume is a lie. And we're fighting constantly about everything. I remember one night, he literally started hysterically sobbing because I said, as a joke, that Kid Rock was hot. Part 13, lucky for him, I want to go to bed soon. But I will spare you guys the details of how I found out that I was getting cheated on, okay? But boy, was I. Y'all have seen him. Like, was I wrong to think I didn't really have to worry about that? It's truly amazing what he was able to accomplish. But he was, in fact, cheating on me with so many people. Like, literally, and like I said, we spent every single second together. So if I, like, matched up the timelines, it would be like we were, like, laying in bed watching Bridgerton, and he'd be, like, sending a dick pic to somebody else. So that was something. And that is ultimately why we did break up. But what's interesting about that is we broke up because I accused him of cheating, and he couldn't believe I would ever have the nerve. He was fully cheating on me. Like, but can you believe that? Like, he broke up with me. Like, how embarrassing is that? I shouldn't even tell you that. But you guys know that story. I was a wreck. Not handle that well. I was not doing well. It was a really, really rough time. All right. But it was only then that I had the confidence to bring the mom thing back up again. So we're on the phone, and I'm hysterically sobbing, and I'm asking him, how could you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Do you need to be institutionalized, etc.? And I ask him, also, why did you fake the death of your family? And of course, he denies it. And I then tell him, I've been talking to your mother. I had not been talking to his mother, but that got him. He finally admitted that he did, in fact, fake the death of his mom and his brother. His dad is dead. Not that that's a good thing, but there's 1 out of 3 that are dead. The rest are still kicking. So I guess it's like a positive. If you think about all his songs about how he like just wishes he could talk to his mom one more time, it's like, call her. Right? It has now been 2 years since we've broken up, and he had the nerve to post a TikTok today saying that I cannot let it go. And I just want to go on record and say, no fucking shit. Apparently his new song comes out on Friday, and the man will do anything to get a stream. So honestly, you guys, do him a service. He needs money for therapy. And if you take nothing else away from this story, just know that treating underlying mental health conditions is very important, because had I known what was wrong with me, I would have never gone. I don't know how much more I want to talk about it. I mean, your videos are cracking me up, but I don't want to venture into like tacky territory. However, we do of course have to address the statement that Clinton put out, because it is so funny. I would like to take it piece by piece, okay? Starting with Clinton Kane and Brooke Schofield had a brief 3-month relationship over 2 years ago. To which I reply, why on earth would I want people to think I dated you longer than I did? Next, we have Brooke's recent comments regarding Clinton are untrue. No, they're fucking not. Right, this part is like one of my favorite elements of the story, which is like the random side quest he decided to go on when people started finding things out, where he made up an imaginary new woman who was a mother figure to him, who was actually the one who had died, okay? The rep says that the mother he referred to in the interview with Sang was actually a very special mother-like figure in his teenage years who sadly passed, not his biological mother, as was assumed. Which, what do you mean was assumed? Like, girl. Clinton genuinely felt like he had lost an irreplaceable mother figure, okay? This might hold up for the Zach Sang interview, but I was his girlfriend, okay? I was getting stories from like the time he was born to the present, okay? With names, all right? Which is how I looked his little mom up to begin with, okay? There was one mom, all right? It's the same mom I heard about every single day, and that is the one he killed off, and that is the one who is chilling in Brunei. And this is not even the most concerning part of the statement. I want to talk about the part of the statement that really got my little feet kicking, okay? It reads, the public rehashing of these details is only an attempt to bring attention and focus on Brooke's podcast at the expense of tearing down another former boyfriend, a tactic that she has become known for. But if they had done any research at all, they would know that the canceled podcast listeners have known this lore all along, okay? I brought this to my TikTok audience for one reason and one reason only, okay? It is because that man called me a yapper. I mean this in the most humble way possible, truly. Like, I really, truly do. Canceled amasses more listeners in one singular week than Clinton Kane has in an entire year. I'm sorry. This article was published in Rolling Stone, okay? Rolling Stone, who actually reached out to me in 2023, all right? Several times. We were already publishing a story on Clinton, okay? It was already a thing. People knew about it, okay? Ultimately, I decided I wanted no involvement. As you can see here, I feared for his mental health, okay? I didn't want anything to do with that because I couldn't do it in good conscience. They even offered to let me do it anonymously, and I ghosted them. Okay? So please, Clinton's publicist, if you exist and if you are listening, please help that man. I have nothing to gain. I'm embarrassing myself. So if you guys saw the video and the song that came out last night, which honest to God, hope you didn't, it is directed and edited by his ex-girlfriend who came before me, okay? So I referenced her in my original story time. Her name is Mia. She is a fucking angel, and she's a victim as well. Apparently, somewhere along the way, they worked out some sort of friendship, and she, I don't know, edited and directed the video. That's none of my business, okay? I have not a bad word to say about her. She is literally like, she was such a saint to me during my breakup. But what I did find out during that time was that he killed his mom off while they were actively dating. So, like, actually physically called her, his girlfriend, on the phone and said, me mum just died. Me mum just died. And she flew across the country and stayed with him for months while he grieved. A woman who is alive. She literally sat there, stayed by his side for months while he literally like sobbed his eyes out, mourned a woman that he just decided to kill off one day. I had to tell her a year later that woman, like, she's alive. She's fully alive. A lot of people ask me, like, well, did his accent ever like go in and out? Like, did you ever notice that he like didn't have an accent? And truthfully, he almost never had the accent with only me, okay? Like, he would turn it on when my friends were around or when we're at dinner with people or whatever, and I was like, okay, slay. But Like, you know, he's a performance artist, but I didn't really think that much of it because obviously, like, I'm American and I just figured, like, he was, like, mirroring me. Sometimes if I felt like he was really being irrational, I would record our arguments because I'd like to show them to him the next day. He knew I did this, by the way. This is not illegal. And you can, there's just nothing Australian about him. I'll let you be the judge.
It's uncomfortable. You can say it to fucking anyone else. You can go with Tana and say it. When I'm in that room, you don't. Because I'm saying it right now, I'm uncomfortable. You want to keep saying things I'm uncomfortable about? Keep going. I'm just going to be, like, weirded out. I'm going to be like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Something I brought up to my girlfriend that I said was uncomfortable. She doesn't acknowledge it, nor respect that I am uncomfortable about it. And she doesn't want to stop saying it, even though it doesn't demoralize her personality or her value.
You literally don't even know what that means.
It doesn't demoralize your personality.
What are you even talking? What are you talking about?
Here we go. Turn off.
That is not what demoralize means.
Oh, here's the fun one you guys will like. He, first of all, does go to therapy. He goes to therapy, or at least in the time that I was with him, he was in therapy twice a week with a therapist who thought that his mom was dead, okay? So I fear they were working on the wrong issue. But a little fun fact is that a few months after he had killed off his mom and Columbia Records had thrown his mother a funeral, his mom showed up to one of his shows. Mom showed up to one of his shows. And he created this extreme, extravagant story about how he had a therapist who became so involved in his life that she started to act as though like she was his mother. And it creeped him out. His mom showed up involved in his life. She started to act as though like she was his mother. And it creeped him out and he had to break up with his therapist or whatever it was. And that's the story that he told. So he pretended that his literal mother was a psychotic, deranged therapist that was boasting around saying that she was his mother. His mom involved in his life, she started to act as though like she was his mother. And it creeped him out and he had to break up with his therapist or whatever it was. And that's the story that he told. So he pretended that his literal mother was a psychotic, deranged therapist that was boasting around saying that she was his mother.